people have this feeling or thinking that they need to be in certain condition to be able to do certain things. You know, they never feel like they are good enough. They never feel like it can happen to them. So they always put some limitations on them. They always put like, oh, I need to have this condition, blah, blah, blah. So all of these things, which is controlling them in their life to create their best outcome, right? So if they take away those limitations, or they take away those conditions and they just believe and they just move with the energies, you know, being in the flow, then they start attracting good things.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And I have a very interesting guest here today. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I want to welcome to the podcast Edith Kiss. She is a holistic therapist, among many amazing things, and just an incredible gift from the universe. Welcome to the podcast, my dear friend.
Thank you, San, for having me. And I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Yeah. Well, what I'd love you to do is just for a moment, just share a little bit about yourself leading up to this point.
So I always had vivid dreams since a child. So I dreamed always about adventures. Like when I fell asleep, I started a new life when I was sleeping. So it was really exciting. And next day when I was talking about this to people, and I just realized not everybody is having dreams like me. So I already felt that, oh, I'm so lucky, or I'm so blessed having that thing that I am actually happy to sleep and have this experience. And then later on, I was drawn to several religions and wisdoms, and I loved mythology and mystical things. I was always excited learning about ancient Egypt and then all kinds of things. And I even remember that when I was a teenager, I had a book where I could predict, you know, future with like ancient Egyptian goddesses, you know, like asking questions from them. And it was just fun for me. I haven't really had the acknowledgement what I'm doing, you know. So it was really a fun to looking for something to belong to, because I grew up in a communist country where there was no religion allowed. So I wasn't, you know, in none of the directions. So I wasn't connected to God on a conscious level. And I was looking for some religion to belong to. And that's how I was like learning about Taoism and Buddhism and everything. I actually resonated back then more with the Taoism, because that was like a source energy, you know, I can tune into and then get some guidance, or just to have that unknown to call somehow, you know. And then later on, when I really consciously started to learning spiritual modalities, it was because I had issues. I had panic attacks, and then I didn't want to take medications. So I was searching for some tools, and that's how I got into Reiki healing. And then with the Reiki Master, I was very blessed, because she also did some extra sense retreats where I learned more about just meditating, just coming out of my body and having experiences like in other dimensions, and then healing like that as well, learning how to heal people like who are in distance, you know. So it was like when you have no time and space, you know, right? And then also after that, I learned like family constellation therapies, which was again an amazing experience, inviting spirits into your body basically, and having their feelings in you and solving their issues through you. So these experiences were so amazing and so profound for me, when I was about like serving others as well, helping others as well. And then how easy is that actually to solve issues in life, what people just walking with and carrying that heaviness with them every day. And then later I got into Sekhem healing and Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga was really a big shift in me. So when I learned Karma Yoga from Sumant Kaul, Karma Guru, who's from India, so that was the first, like when I opened my third eye, I got activated my pineal gland, and then suddenly like breadcrumbs from the universe, like I had sudden like acknowledgements, sudden like meditative thoughts, and then people appeared in my life who were from my past lives, and I had to solve like karma with them, and I just started to feel and see more like who's coming from what past life, what is happening, and then it's more aware of the multidimensional existence we're having, right? So that's how I also started Sekhem healing, because I realized I have past life in Egypt, ancient Egypt. So I wanted to learn the Sekhem healing because of that. So these experiences which brought me to the solution, like I want to help people, I want to serve people and help them to heal with these tools, because it helped me also with my panic attacks and other illnesses like physical and mental issues.
Wow. Yes, you know, I think it's a one of those epiphanies that a lot of, well, most, in my opinion, well, through everything I've experienced over the last 32 years teaching people internal alchemy, the biggest aha for a Taoist seeker is servitude. And, you know, I mean, normally it comes after a more in-depth, you know, alchemical awakening. But, you know, it can come in so many millions of forms, because everyone has their own story, their own journey. And I just love the way your sort of your ebb and flow of your realization over your lifetime as you continue to awaken and return to your true self, is what we call it within Taoism, is returning to the center point. And, you know, there's nothing more profound than being able to access that and then use it, or be that instrument to affect someone else's ability to remember. And that's where it gets all warm and fuzzy inside and exciting. And energetic potential is the highest form of expression in relation to this 3D reality that differentiates the mundane from the supernatural. And then you get into this whole different, you know, pace of reality. And so now you're in the driver's seat. You've been awakened. You've mentioned channeling and energetic healing and all these incredible things. Now, have you deciphered something that is more appropriate when you work with people, how to help them return from all these incredible practices?
Yes, I realized that the tool which is helped them the most is actually the one which is healing them from the traumas. And that's the source memory healing I learned from my karma guru, because every like physical illness or mental issues is going back to the core trauma. And then if we are able to find those core traumas, then it's really helpful to release that, and finally they can forgive and move on. And how it works is like they got into transcendental state. So we do samadhi meditation, and then that brings them into transcendental state when they connect with their unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is the one what brings the memories. So you don't need to consciously think like, oh, this situation which is coming up right now in my life, where is it coming from? What happened to me in my childhood? I need to remember. It's not like that. It's like the unconscious mind is going to bring one memory after the other. And my clients sometimes so surprised that even an innocent memory holded all those negative emotions and was an initiator of a current situation. And sometimes past lives comes up. Like I even had recently a client, we stepped into past lives in other planets with her. Like we really went into past lives with her. So the current situation what she's experienced, she felt really terrible about her current expression about, for example, about her house, whatever is happening with her house. And then we went back to past lives, and then how she was unable to decide on stepping through a portal or connecting with some ancestors or whatever, the indecisive feeling, that negative emotion was coming from that far to her being undecisive right now. So it's so much connected, like with our multidimensional existence, how we heal each other, how I can help them to get healed, And I always say to people, because I have many clients who came to me with abuse, like rape or other kinds of abuse from childhood. And they always ask me, like, how is it possible that I can forgive to that people, especially if they are in my family members or whatever? And then I always tell them that if we do the release, if we release those negative emotions and replace them with positive, and then we even go into the light and basically we use also supreme pure consciousness for this clearing, then you're going to be more likely to forgive. But sometimes they still hesitating. Sometimes not everything is tick for them. Then I always tell them that, look, only like 5% of the time we think consciously. The rest is coming from our subconscious reprogramming, is coming from the superconscious effects. So when someone hurts you or causing you something, is not likely that they're doing it consciously. They either like from an ancestral karma is coming through, or an ancestral trauma is coming through, or their personal karma is coming through. And this is a person who was picked by the universe to serve that karma, you know. So after that they realize this, they are like able to forgive, because yeah, like otherwise it wouldn't make sense why that person would hurt me, or why that person caused me this and that. So they, and then even sometimes they remember that in the memory, as soon as they said a person's name and they come back to consciousness, they didn't do the harm. Like if they had, for example, a rape from several people in a group, and then one of them, they called the name, and that person snapped out and didn't do the rape, you know. So it's like so many evidence that when they do these kind of things, they are not in their consciousness. So you can forgive them, because it's not the person who you need to blame. It's never a person. And then many survivor is always looking for judgment, you know, looking for like who's to blame, you know. And then that's why they are so connected to that pain that they are unable to forgive. And that's what they carry as a heavy thing. And that's what becomes like triggers after triggers and diseases. And, you know, then they got ill and whatever. So I always say that when you, as soon as you know you are triggered, as soon as you know you have things to release, you need to work on it. Otherwise you get sick. You got all kinds of diseases. So it's a prevention tool as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sounds very much the humanistic realization of the human condition. Within Taoism, we're a little bit more we're symbiotic in relation to everything is a bellows. This is the simplicity of it. That's all it is. It's a bellows. So that means you're all things and nothing at the same time. And
yes.
People are like, whoa. Well, what does that mean? Well, you are all things and nothing. You are contracting, expanding. The Taoist seeker is the sweet spot when we access the Wu Ji, which is the stillness between the breath in and the breath out, between the contraction and expansion, is that present moment that we speak of. That's all you have. That's all there is. And so within that, you bring what we call the resonance. So light to wave to matter to particle is realized from your attention, intention in this present moment that creates energy. Energy has a vibration. Vibration has a frequency. The frequency, if met with the resonance, booyah, you have something supernatural beyond this 3D reality. Because it's so distorted from a Taoist perspective, we look at it as this 3D reality is cut from the cloth of perfection, the mother. So everything has a frequency that is different to perfection. And that chill you and I just got right now, that is evidence of that. That is that realization, that oscillating oneness that we speak of. And so when you start to get into these different facets, whenever I'm channeling, I've been channeling my teachers for probably close to 32 years now. My Lao-Tzu is my teacher on a minute-by-minute basis. I claim to know nothing. I'm as smart as a bag of rocks. Anything that comes out of my mouth is from a higher resonance. And it's normally a dialogue that I have with over 171 teachers that I call on for information, which some people in the spiritual New Age world would refine or define as holes of mente, Akashic records, things of this nature. And so you have this awakening. And I love the way that you're breaking it down, this sort of relationship between conscious and unconscious. That's the true realization of the yin and yang. And the center point is right here. And when you get into that, the the difference between intellect and intuitive is nothing more than a breath away. And when you play with these types of things, you have this relationship. A lot of my friends, I teach people remote viewing, channeling, mediumship, clairvoyance, all that kind of stuff. It goes under the guise of Taoist practices that have literally been around hundreds of thousands of years. When you access that, you regulate that. I'll refer back to what you mentioned as sensory perception. You become, you know, that present moment, that ability to access all these things, these incredible things that you've gathered through your lifetime, that you're sharing with all the people that you're helping them remember who they are, which is so beautiful. Servitude, selflessness is the true realization of an ascended state, that you know that you are part of this collective, that you are the singular from a physics perspective, the oneness, and everything that you're mentioning is so beautiful. I find that personally, we have things, rituals, we call them soul retrieval, and quite frankly, I sort of cut to the mustard on that type of stuff, because it is, we don't see anything as good or bad. It's just yin or yang. So there's no, it's sort of like a dialogue from one of my dear friends, remote viewer. We call it ideograms. So you have an ideogram that you're communicating with your unconscious to give you a messaging that would be clear. Mm-hmm. And so how remote viewers work with these ideograms to generate the outcome of, as you mentioned, distance healing, is this very dialogue that you have. So it really is that contracting and expanding, realizing that there is that present moment is now. It's not, you're not really conscious and unconscious. You're just that you have that sweet spot. Have you ever seen Star Wars before? The movie Star Wars?
Of course, yeah.
Remember that Death Star moment at the end where Luke flies into the Death Star? He has one chance to hit the center point. That chill that you and I got right now, that rippling effect, that is the center point. And my goodness, I just love it. I've never, ever tired of being able to be in conversation with incredible masters like yourself that have obtained this consciousness. And there's a million ways up the mountain. There's like, you know, there's a million ways to acquire this state of awareness. I always remind people, when you dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own. Yes. And this is the chilling effect for any students of mine, disciples, you know, 126ers, subscribers. They love this conversation that I have with incredible beings like yourself, because it's like, oh my goodness, everything she said makes sense to me right now. I cannot believe it. Like the charge we're getting right now, the aha moment. It's like, it all makes sense. And this is why, you know, it never tires, because there is no such thing. I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine, Tom Campbell, and he's an OBE or a master of ceremonies. I mean, he's a spring chicken. He's 80 years young, and the dude has had some conscious time or awareness of this lifetime. And this putting it together, I love the way your guides have put this incredible, basically, I would say a system that works for you and all the people you help. And, you know, people can have those aha moments, and they're using that dialogue. You're helping them find that dialogue that works for them. And what would you say is the most profound, considered out of the mundane, ordinary human experience, a supernatural event of healing that would come to mind for you?
I recently channeled, it was channeled a year ago, a new healing technique for me. And then from my angels, I received it because I was really sick. And then I told them that I need help. And then they gave me a new healing modality. And later I actually did a workshop about it. And then recently I started to teach to my students. And then I also felt like this January, it's even turned into a much more powerful thing. That's why I started to teaching it, that you can actually heal yourself, like just you know, many times when you do energy healing or healing, you use a hologram, you know, and then you can actually manipulate in the hologram the healing, like you play with Lego, you know, like it's that easy, because we are an illusion. Everything is illusion. So as soon as you understand that everything is an illusion, it means you can manipulate it. So what is recently happening, that when someone got hurt, or there is a pain or something bothering them, that basically, you know, is not belongs to you. It's something different from you, which is just there to bother you. So I'm able to like pull it out and replace it with light, and then heal it like within 5 minutes. And this, like, I started to do it since January, and then it was like accidentally happened because I was just in pain, and then I just did it on myself first, and then I did it on my daughter when she fell and then hurt her knee, and then on my son, and so on and so forth. And then I realized that is I can do it even with the flu, you know, like just pull it out from my body, and that's it, and it's gone in a 5 minutes. And before, I was just like in bed, you know, for a couple of days, and it's became really remarkable. And then I added this to my elemental light healer training, which I added the ones which I learned a year ago from the angels. So I put together with the elemental healing, and I also downloaded a fireball healing technique from the angels. So I put this all together, and then when my clients ask me like, oh, what kind of modalities, what else you use with your clients besides the karma healing? And then I told them I do some energy healing with them, because I'm a Reiki Master as well, and so on and so forth. But I don't want to teach Reiki. I don't want to teach Sekhem. And I want to teach something else, which is recently more powerful, or more how can I say, more simple and more profound. So why not teach this? So, and then they some of them who just did the course recently, they were like really flabbergasted and very happy about it. And yeah, so this is what came to me recently, and I'm very happy for. And I feel like I am getting like stronger and stronger. How can I say? The universe is giving me more and more responsibilities. That's what I can say, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's within Taoism, we call it Fa Jun, we call it Qi, the mother, substance. It's substance, it's palpable. I think of what a lot of people have misconceptions about, or maybe Hollywood fantasies about, is your ascension means that its energy is non-centralized, or you cannot feel it, or, you know, that's you know, unfortunately, I mean, my personality speaking right now, it's nonsensical, because you're not understanding everything has an energetic profile, and the potential is a variable. And, you know, quite frankly, when you're mentioning things of that nature, where you're removing things of that, there has to be this energetic fluidity and substance. And we get that from, you know, I teach people Taoist alchemy, and it's very clear when you obtain that inner infrastructure, the substance becomes palpable, and, you know, you can separate electric from magnetic, because that's really what the potential is within this 3D. Now, you know, for us to realize that we're standing in a fourth dimension looking at a 3D. So we're already in the fourth dimension. It's a space-time continuum that would be constructed by the limitations of your processing as a human being. So when you start to get deeper into the substance, and you have self-evident realization, which is the very big part of a Taoist seeker, is the self-evidence. It's returning to your true source. That, you know, the highest level of ascension for a Taoist is channeling. So we go through 9 stages: physical body, energetic body, spiritual body, sun body, earth body, moon body, oneness body, ultimate, and then being one with all things. Now, this ascension becomes self-evident. The density, your abilities are regulated, and then transferable and repeatable. The most important thing is repeatable. You know, I've been doing this, like I said, for many decades, and a lot of people get it all warm and fuzzy. They get a glimpse of what I call the dragon. They chase it, and then they can't repeat it. So they hear grandma, they get an energetic experience, they thought about someone, they called them, all of a sudden they had a premonition, and it was realized. They were able to witness a healing, something profound. All these things are evidence of something greater that give you that taste, that desire to want to create and return. And so then it becomes the perplexing part of the seeker to find the methodology that is repeatable, that can be, you know, advanced to a level that is very clear that that's what you're doing, and it's not a psychotic episode. And that's why it's always important, you know, to differentiate that, in my opinion. I mean, people call, you know, psychosomatic experiences as a detrimental effect. I would have to disagree. The fact that that somatic response is a visceral response within the body is all from a psychological perspective of a negative, which it is not. You are experiencing something that validates this barometer, this tuning fork, as your experiencer. This is your recording device that makes it tangible and real for you. And to bring it to a state where, as you said, you know, you removed the healing from your son, you were sick, that could have happened for days, and you're able to obtain this resonance that returned you within minutes. These are the things that are, you know, that are exciting and give you the desire to want to pursue this stuff and to repeat it. And a lot of people are, you know, they're getting this incredible insight, yet they want to dismiss the mastery and the cultivational practices. You go over these practices, and, you know, over the years, I've done many different things, from, you know, getting deep into the alchemy, separating, you know, electric from magnetic, the sun from the earth to the moon. These are all alchemical processes, as you referenced, the macro of a micro, realizing this has been the Taoist seeker's affinity with the universe, the whispers of the universe, for hundreds of thousands of years within Taoism. And people always go, well, Jifu, no, there's only logically maybe 6,000 BC. I'm sorry. I channel my teachers directly. I've even had people on this channel that have pursued the origins of humanity, and they have actual documents dating back to 1 million BC of human life forms that is the same potential that we possess today. So all bets are off with this narrative that they want to shut down. And of course, you understand, channeling your direct source information from your teachers or your source, or however you perceive it, is that self-evidence. You get a technique, you then apply it and go, holy moly, this works. This is not a figment of my imagination. This is working here. This is not playing out in my Marvel's multi-universe fantasies. I'm able to apply it here, whether it comes in the form of manifestation, magic, healing. Now, magic is such a powerful thing. You brought the audience attention to karma. Now, that's an interesting one. From a Taoist, karma is problematic for the observer of that. So karma would fall in the model of a duality. And so that dualistic sort of perception leaves you open to a fearful realization. So that karmic model, more potentially from a Buddhist perspective, would be negative in connotation. Whereas within Taoism, because we perceive and accept things as just an oscillation between yin and yang, karma doesn't really have a place in that model. So it's more advantageous for a Taoist alchemical student in training, or a masterful sorcerer or sorceress, to apply that magic. And so that's where we go deep into it. So if you're creating or constructing a talisman, an incantation, imprinting things, creating things on a much denser level with this potential, the karmic model affects the receiver. So if you're fearful, you reference that emotional stuff. That's like the first thing that we like to move off the table is, your emotions don't control you, you control your emotions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I also teach mindfulness, and then it's like basically like you can control only three things: your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And then the karma is also part of this, the consequences of your actions, basically. And then many people, I mean, we shouldn't suffer from our karma, because if we do the right action as the karma comes, you can actually close the cycle, and you don't need to go into that pattern again. It's always about the decision you make, and then you need to be in a high vibrational emotion and having positive thinking to make the right decision. And the right decision is basically not harming anyone else, right, and yourself. So that's about karma, like don't harm, nobody, mentally, physically, and yourself, of course. And then that's it. Like if you make the decisions like that, if you focus on that, you always can close the karmic cycles and have a nice life for yourself.
Yeah.
Even though even though I have specific meditations, like for karmic depth release, I also have meditations for ancestral karma healing, all of these things, because it's so difficult to be mindful. It's so difficult for people to control their thoughts and emotions and actions. So then the fast track is doing those meditations and asking the source to help to release and forgive for whatever negative actions they've done, or their ancestral karma or ancestral trauma, to release it from their system, from the soul family, But yeah, that's like a different approach. But the best way to go for people would be is actually practicing meditations, becoming more grounded, more peaceful, more in harmony, and then basically have the mindset of positive thinking, higher vibration, and then just having always good actions, and then just being mindful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it always comes back to the energetic potential. So, I mean, perhaps maybe you reference chakras within Taoism, we call them dantians. And the first thing you do for any Taoist seeker who's in the infancy of crawling before walking is to identify that your emotions don't control you, you control your emotions.
Yeah.
And so that energetic potential gets realized. I've never seen anyone be able to not master that within maybe potentially a self-evidence within 27 minutes. There'll be evidence of your ability and potential to do that. And I always give people this litmus test, because you get a guru, a healer, a whatever energy person, and they're like, oh man, I'm invested. I just want to go out and do all this stuff. And you just need time, more time, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. No, I want to see it now. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with, American pop culture, but I'm an 80s guy, and there was an ad campaign in the 80s, and it was called the Pepsi Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the Pepsi Challenge with anyone. It's basically saying, hey, put up or shut up. Show me what it is that is this magical access point, and I'll always I will put the material that I teach people to a valid test to show you what the potential is. Because the second you access this, for me, within the way I teach, you'll have evidence within the first experience that you have the ability to access this state. And it shouldn't be a long drawn out thing. And again, the potential is your dialogue with your conscious and unconscious process, right? So you mentioned very clearly how it's difficult for human beings to control their emotions. That would be the fundamentals of the human condition.
Yeah.
Now,
is their belief. Yeah, is their belief. Yeah,
right back to the belief system.
Yeah, that they have to be on an emotional roller coaster.
Right. And, I always remind people, your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And people are like, whoa, what? That's it. But, well, that would sound like you're empowering someone to have their own belief system, and they can believe what they want and discern or affirm whatever it is that they choose to. Yes, 1000%. No, you do not have to fall into the the psyop and the dialogue of mind bending because you're in a situation that your environment affects your outcome due to the fact that you are absorbing that.
Yeah.
And so when you master these skills, it's not about protecting yourself. A lot of people are like, I need to protect myself and bring the bright light down and wrap myself up. And I'm like, you are me, I am you. And a lot of people can become more, well, you need permission. I need permission to access myself. No, no. Energy is energy. And so most people get into this moral compass. And I remind people, the universe doesn't have a moral compass. This is all dialogue that is created. This language that we are speaking of is of human form. This is not, we don't need to digest anything. The universe is not digesting anything. What most come to the realization through Taoist seeking is that the ultimate realization is the selflessness that comes from servitude. And that selflessness will be realized. And all of a sudden, as you mentioned, we referred back to making decisions. You're not having to forgive anyone because you're not falling into a trap that makes you lower frequency as opposed to higher frequency, which someone would refer to as good or bad. You will embrace it. You know, the charge we get right now, you will embrace it. You will move towards it, and your life will become effortless. And people will be like, what do you mean? I mean, like literally people will think you're the luckiest person they've ever come across because the synergy, the serendipity, the synchronicity of what you're doing is moving into that contraction. And that choice that you make is not of limitation, but the expansion of that. So once you move into it, you hit the low. And from a Taoist perspective, you go, oh, when I'm at my lowest, I'm really at my highest. Oh, 100%. 100%. When you feel like you've had the biggest shit sandwich of your life, you come to that realization that, no, this is you holding on for the resonance. The resonance is so high that you are now transforming yourself from a subatomic level, and it will present itself with all these traces from what Edith has mentioned throughout this podcast about the emotional content, the trauma. Within Taoism, we call it a thought, feeling, and emotion. When you have that thought, it triggers the emotion that results in a feeling. And these are the three secret source components to your reality. That's all it is. Those three things are it. And so when you can acquire the thought, dissolve the emotion and the feeling, it returns as wisdom. And then you can apply it to this incredible experience. And absolutely. So that trauma, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's beautiful. Yeah. So it's just being in aware that subconscious reprogramming is really important. The belief system is really important because it's not you. Is most of the time is your parents, your environment, whatever you picked it up, and then people have this feeling or thinking that they need to be in certain condition to be able to do certain things. You know, they never feel like they are good enough. They never feel like it can happen to them. So they always put some limitations on them. They always put like, oh, I need to have this condition, blah, blah, blah. So all of these things, which is controlling them in their life to create their best outcome, right? So if they take away those limitations, or they take away those conditions and they just believe and they just move with the energies, you know, being in the flow, then they start attracting good things. And then yes, as in within as without, that is out. How you say that in English? Anyway,
yeah, you're a macro of a micro. Yeah. I mean, just like you referenced, oh my goodness, I realized my teachers gave me this. This is sort of like very ancient for Taoists. It would be referred to within a common practice of reflexology, deep within traditional Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is a derivative of Taoist alchemy. And so one of my teachers, the Yellow Emperor, who basically created the relationship between the human being and energetic potential, was after he had a 18-day and night magnetizing of his physical body to planet Earth as the universe downloaded everything within Chinese culture as we know it today. So there's these variables. Now, people talk about Taoist canons, and there's been variable alterations of Taoist paths due to different sects, religions, everything. Quite frankly, I refer to Taoism as a Gnostic journey of realization. Gnosticism, it's to know now, to know the present moment. And so there is always going to be a different, I'm a lineage holder of 2 sects of Taoism, but that is not the meat and potatoes of what I teach people. It's a starting point, but I was given that realization almost instantaneous in my journey, remembering who I was for thousands of lifetimes leading up to this. And that was like that moment when I channeled Lao-Tzu, and that visceral kinesthetic response that you get, that somatic expansion, is self-evident. And, when people are in the presence, whether I speak or whether I do a direct channel, as you understand what it's like, there's this physical transmission that is undeniable, and it comes in that high fluidity of a yin and yang experience. So the substance, the profiles are so potent, and you get that direct. Like when Edith and I have been speaking throughout this whole conversation, we've had symbiotic, basically expansions, oscillating energy that has been evident within this conversation, within both of us connecting, within the students listening to this, anyone listening to it, they can feel it. It's realized. And so that's just part of the potential of now. And that happens. And, a lot of people are like, how do you even know? How do you know that happened? Because I see it first and then I feel it. I have choices, as it talks about. And these are part of the mastery of the clairsenses. Is when you master these clairsenses, you're not playing with, something that is not a very clear path of high resonance. So a lot of people tend to go, I feel energy now. Oh, cool. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a Qigong master. I feel energy. Da, da, da. And I'm like, okay, really? First red flag. All I need to ask you is, when you finish your day, how do you feel? Well, I'm a massage therapist. I'm an attorney. I'm a judge. I'm a meter maid. I'm a janitor. I'm a guru. I'm a Reiki healer. I'm a light worker. I'm a whatever. And I'm like, okay, so what is the end of your physical day as a human being? How do you feel? Exhausted. Okay, that's all I need to hear. Now, I could explain that to them because I do psychic drive-bys, psychic reading drive-bys, where you can basically assess someone's mental, emotional, physical state inside of 10 seconds. All I do is read the energy. The potential is right in front of me. And so a lot of people tend to get really spooked out by that, because how you don't even know me. You know me 1 second. How the hell do you know anything about me? All I'm doing is literally reading off a menu. I look at all your energy centers and I can see them. And with that is an emotion and a virtue. And this is an ancient Taoist practice. And if it's excess or deficient, to reveal the virtue, you must regulate the emotion, which comes from the energetic potential. Once you regulate this energetic potential, you get what we call as Wu Wei within Taoism. What is that? Wu Wei is the flow, effortless action, effortless effort. All of a sudden you're synchronized. So it goes beyond the humanistic perception of good and bad, up and down. Dualism or dualistic perception is null and void. Now you're just entering into it, because, teaching all this stuff, doing all these crazy things, whether it's watching physical flesh heal before my very eyes, or, doing supernatural stuff where, I could take the body to potentials that are not possible, shocking people with electric charges and all this kind of stuff. It's exciting. And then you go, okay, tick, bucket list. Now we're moving right along. The most exciting thing that gets me warm and fuzzy inside is witnessing physical healing, mental, emotional, spiritual. And then this is me contributing as part of the collective to raise the humanity and help them return that charge. That's what you and I are getting right now. That charge is that excitement that we are all returning. And of course, with that, without that servitude, that selflessness returns. No wars, no famine, no fear, no humans destroying humans, humans eating humans, like, you know, cannibalistic, troglodytes. They're being distorted with their perception, and that's not the truth. The truth is clear. You know, I remember, and you probably, I'd love to hear your take. So at the beginning of the year, everyone goes, prediction, prediction. Oh my goodness, prediction. and people come to Latsu, and I'll do a channeling, and Latsu will be, he's a little cheeky, and he'll be like, imagine you're like a grain of sand asking the beach, what are we doing today? Fall back into the beach and be realized, because there is no separation. And so the biggest fear-based stuff that's been going on in this year all has to do with this humanistic low frequency stuff about war, about death, destruction, this nonsense about you have to pick a side of what you believe in from an intellect-based nonsense we call politics. The truth is, unfortunately, and I keep telling people, and they're like, whoa, it's only getting better. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a World War III. Unfortunately, there's not going to be death and destruction. Unfortunately, there's not going to be the financial destruction, because this is directly from Latsu. He goes, the resonance of the sun is 9 times more powerful than any time in human history, which brings up the brainwave of the human who's experiencing it on planet Earth. That means that you go from a what we call a beta brainwave, which is more hyper focused and could potentially be, from a humanistic perspective, negative based, and the planet is starting to oscillate around a 40, 50, 60 hertz. And that means that's the Earth is culminating with the sun. The sun's frequency is bringing that, raising that up, and that has nothing to do with whether you like a certain religion, a political issue, whether you got $5 in the bank or $1 million. Yet all these talking heads, all these spiritual people, it drives me insane. Like my personality, and I'm being very clear, Jifu, they want to feed off the fear.
Yes, exactly.
I'd love to share. You share with the audience what your teachers have been telling you.
So basically, I always say that whoever is expressing fearfulling, like people,
fear-mongering,
like putting fear into people, you shouldn't listen to those spiritual teachers, because they are not spiritual. Like, that's the spiritual about it, that you are not fearful. You trust the process, you trust the system, you trust the universe, the fear what you should eliminate, basically. And so I just wanted to go back to the point when you were talking about, like, you see or feel energy of others. And I was learning first this technique from my Reiki Master, and I loved it, and I still show it to my students, that basically how you can test yourself if someone wants to test it, like about their senses for energy. Like, you can write someone's name on a paper, or you can even do like several names, put it in a bucket, and you just pull out one so you don't know who is on the paper, and then you hold it in your hand at that name, and you can already feel the energy of that person, and you can already say how that person feels right now, and what is that person doing right now, and is that person a man, a female, or what age. So you can actually practice like this, and then you open it up and then see if you were right, but it works pretty well if someone is psychic, or have this so if anybody listening to this and want to have this confirmation that if they're able to read energies, try this, And then
I mean, more commonly from a lot of my friends, they would call it psychometry, right? So you're taking an object and you read into it. Like, if I take this cell phone unfortunately has the potential of a very, very shortly lived life of someone who contributed within something that looked like a concentration camp within a factory to produce this, and you can feel the pain of this person just barely surviving to produce this product. And their reward is imminent death, because this is not being produced by very nice people. And this is a saddening part, that you and I and all of us need to come to that realization. When you tap into this stuff, do you want to support that resonance? And of course, I have my own issues because I have this phone. Yet, when you look at it from a humanistic perspective, from the human consciousness, by supporting this type of energy, it continues to perpetuate and repeat itself. Yeah. And so we have the ability.
This is the karmic pattern I was talking about, the decision. Like, they make the decision that they actually continue feeding into this. So it's going to continue this pattern. Right. And about the prediction for this year, you were asking me about the prediction. So my prediction would be is like more teamwork, more collaboration, people more coming together in helping each other with things. And then also technical, using more technology in this elevation, you know, in the process. So that's what I was actually predicting for this year. So people reaching out to each other, collaborating instead of competition, you know, and lifting them each other up more, and then also using the technology to make their life easier and better, basically, and have more self-time for themselves, you know.
Yeah. I mean, when the sun oscillates like that and it affects the earth, and we're now at a, you know, within the next 24 months, we'll be sitting at a 60 hertz brainwave. What does that mean to anyone else? It's a gamma brainwave. Normally, when I witness physical healings, bone fuse, flesh reform before my very eyes, I'm at 100 to 400 hertz. I measure my brainwaves, and that is not consistent with someone who's like there's this character that they call Stephen Hawkins or something that has a consciousness scale, and I don't really refer to that, but some people bring it up, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, if you're going on a consciousness scale, I don't know how he acquires that, but brainwaves, all bets are off. So what happens when you hit a gamma brainwave that would have been perceived as, you know, maybe 5 years ago, as only 2% of the population could obtain a gamma brainwave. I've been obtaining gamma brainwaves for 30 plus years. The evidence of that is your ability to access everything at once. There is no unconscious. You are 100% conscious, giving you the potential to create a probability that would be whatever your intention is. So no longer are you subject to a method, subject to a sort of way that you're supposed to cultivate. This is the now moment that we speak of, the Wu Ji, the mother of all things, the Tao. That's how we obtain it. And once you get there, you know, all bets are off. So those things then are realized in all different sort of like facets of that. And it's really profound stuff. When you see it, you know you're there. And most commonly for someone to refer to that or remember that would be selflessness, servitude. I don't know. I didn't have to think. I just did it. What does that mean? You walk past a homeless person, you gave them 100. I tend to throw them 50, 100 bucks, and people are like, what? Now, I will admit I do lie a little bit. I want to see whether they're just at the mercy of their demons that are just going to take them to the end of another bottle of alcohol or smoking some other substance. Normally, most people have had this distorted view of reality. They've been told that they're crazy, and they end up on the streets having this dialogue. They're actually quite in tune with another state of consciousness, only they've been led to believe that that's not real. And so you are now playing with someone's ability. You know, 30 years ago, when someone would come to me for what they were diagnosed as a psychotic episode, and I would do an exorcism as a part of my lineage. I teach people how to do that. What is that in essence? It's a removal of an energy that is not creating fluidity in the body. Now, it does come in that form where you'll, you know, take your wildest Hollywood movie, and I've seen it. And that's just an energy potential. And it all comes from the user. So be careful what you wish for. If you're bringing in, if you believe in Freddy Krueger or some horror energy or whatever, then that will find you, because that's the resonance that you are bringing in. And there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with that. But understand, if you're fearful, it will have
Exactly.
a field day on your very perception.
I also learned, like, if you are, going through a graveyard, alone at night, and then you, or you are then, and you feel sad, you feel like in a low vibrational emotions, then it's more spirit gonna actually come on your aura, and they can even enter your aura if it's broken because of your emotions. So it's yeah, you attract the things to you, whatever you imagine, whatever you are fearful of. And yeah, and then sometimes when people get attacked or harmed, is again they kind of attract it to themselves to happen to that thing to them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the simplicity of it is that, and like I said, so 30 years ago, psych ward, psychic, potential, psychotic episode, behavioral disorder, or personality disorder, bipolar, basically, schizophrenia. These are all just people's inability to attune.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not prescribing this as, what is the nonsense people? I'm not a medical doctor. Okay, yeah, I'm a priest. The reality is, when you get this today, I'll get a half a dozen people have the same event that happened 30 years ago, wake up and realize they're channeling the Palladians, open a YouTube channel and get 100,000 followers. I mean, there's a different resonance that's taking place right now, just as referring back to what you had mentioned in what you perceive the future to be. And so, unfortunately, the death and destruction, as much as people want it, they want it bad, because that just feeds the narrative of they're the prophet. And, I can't believe you were able to tell me that all these horrible things are going to happen, because that is the default of a human's perception, which is reproduce and survive another day. The simplicity of that is that fear-based construct. And that's just on the default. As you come out of the production line, you get these tools of survival until you awaken to something greater. So if you feed back into just the mundane, you will receive a very bland sort of lower frequency type of experience that is very reflectant of duality. But that is the realization that it is not duality. There is none. But it's part of the experience that people want to endure this 3D, which is all a construct of your energetic potential. And so then you get deeper. And I need to know the meaning of life. Well, the easier it gets is just understanding that it is the bellows that the Taoists speak of. That's it. Expand and contract. You're one or the other. You're all things and nothing at the same time. That's the part where people's head, get a little twisted. And one of my teachers, Jade Emperor, will always say, when you believe, when you know you are not of this body, what can harm you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Once I did a healing on myself a couple of years ago, and I went back to a past life because I had just like a relationship issue. I was triggered by a guy. Anyway, so I did a past life. I did this source memory healing, and it brought me back to a past life when I don't want to mention now what, but I was a very high being in that past life. And it came up that my partner was actually died in that past life. So I had to also overcome this grief in that moment. But because I was that powerful being, I started to cry. But my soul was crying because it's realized that that soul is in this physical body. It was disappointed that what the heck I'm doing in this body. And I was crying for 30 minutes as that soul, that big, I don't know, goddess or whatever. So, and then eventually I just had to say, like, okay, I had to get the best out of this. Like, it was like really profound. And it was really like, wow. Like, it was like the opposite way. Like, suddenly my awareness wasn't in my physical awareness, was my spirit there coming and then saying, like, what the heck are you doing in this one? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful realization when you put these pieces together. And And
Yeah.
it's so exciting for the seeker, the Taoist seeker or seeker in general, to find people like yourself or myself to help them understand and return to who they are.
Actually,
And
I wrote a book to help them. So back in 2020, I wrote this book called On the Healer's Journey. And this is a coaching book for seekers, actually. And this is not a too long book because I like to put everything like short and sweet, you know, so just the most important things. And I have like also pretty drawings in there, like mandalas to color for every chapter. So basically, I wrote this book because it was, you know, when this COVID time and everybody started to questioning things. And then they suddenly realized that they need to be under the roof with their family members who are not awakened, and they are on the awakening journey. And then they felt trapped and they felt misunderstood, you know, unsupported by the family. And then they felt like a black sheep. So I wrote this book for them to you know, like support them and to make them feel more, how can I say, that they are not crazy, you know, to feel them that it's okay how you feel, it's okay what you're going through. And then I gave them some tools there to feel better. I gave them some tools how to, you know, protect themselves, or how to put boundaries, and how to actually go through this process. Why also I explained my journey to this. And then I got so many amazing feedbacks who were telling me like, you know, I actually am not that spiritual and I'm not really related to this, but I want to go from 9 to 5 to entrepreneur, and this book helped me. I was like, okay. So because it was showing them that you don't need to, you know, you can change your life easily, and then it's just your decision, and then your mindset, and then you're controlling your emotions, and then it's just the possibilities are endless. And yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This has been an amazing conversation today, getting into the deeper nature of reality. And I love the way that you discovered these facets of your diamond, as we call it within Taoism, perfection. And each facet is a dialogue that you have, and ultimately the monologue that is realized for the present moment. And so I want all my students, seekers, disciples, 126s, subscribers to go out and find Edith's material, her book. I'm going to put all the social media under this podcast so that we are, you know, they can come and find you. And I want to ask you, is there anything you want to share with the audience in closing? Maybe you have how they can get a session with you. Do you do sessions? Do you do group stuff? What are the types of things that you get into?
Yeah, so I have one-on-one help, like a 30 days incubator. That's what I help with if someone is in an urgency, you know, to get out of their darkness, you know, and then feel alive again. That's the 30 days incubator. I have a 12 months program for VIP. That's also a one-on-one. I also have a group, and then in the group, I have a meditation library access. It's a 20, you know, you can reach 24/7, like everybody is meditating there from the group every day. And then we have the live sessions together twice a week. Actually, we meet. And then also there is access to my life transformation system course. It's an online course, basically. So that's what is included in the group one. And I also teach facilitators for Karma Yoga healing. So people who wants to learn about source memory healing to help others, you know, with traumas, or healing ancestral defect, or healing karma. Or also I teach family constellation therapies, past life regressions. And yeah, so basically like level 1, level 2, level 3, they can even become a master in Karma Yoga healing and teach the first 2 levels if they want. So it's a lots of possibilities for, you know, level up themselves as a healer, as a teacher in this field. And, you know, around 70-80% of my clients actually wants to be a facilitator because they are so impressed. They are so happy, and they just feel so different after going through those healing process that they actually want to use that with other people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always that realization of what the potential is, what your potential is as the collective. It's so exciting. This has been such an amazing conversation, my dear friend. And I want to thank you for sharing your time with us today. I will ask in closing one question. What is your definition of consciousness?
Oneness.
Mm, mm. Beautiful. In hundreds of podcasts, I've never had the same answer, because there is no right or wrong answer. There just is this present moment, and it's beautiful. So again, I want to thank you, my dear friend, for coming on today and sharing your incredible mastery with our audience. So I'm very grateful.
Thank you, San, for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear friend. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you on the next one, guys.